Right. Hello, this is a nice little local event. Not going to look the same as the big events. So if you're tuning in, hey, how are you? I'm just going to tell you we're in a park, and there's other things going on in Wrexham today. So we're in this park, and there's a few people. There was a bit of a call to the call to the TRAs this morning, which I think has put quite a lot of women off. But there's like hills over there. There's women who have come up who can't come and stand with us, and there's plenty of speeches that are completely anonymous because they just feel that they can't speak. So I feel it might be a bit of an overkill. Hello. Well, good afternoon. I feel these speakers might just be a little bit overkill, but that's fine. So this is the first sort of Let Women Speak local in Wrexham. And I say the first because it genuinely is the very first one, but I am totally reassured that it's not going to be anywhere near the last. And there's a team of very keen local women who want to make sure that every woman in Wrexham and the surrounding areas, drivable distance, can come and speak and have a network of support when she finds herself, and it's going to be so much worse in the next 5 years, when she finds herself gaslit and silenced and intimidated, and that seems to be like there's just a mass Darvo, which I think we've all seen in lots of aspects, but this is like the biggest, most obvious, blatant lie, that women can have penises. I never get tired of saying that, but it often sounds really crazy. So what we're doing now with Let Women Speak, which is I'm just so excited about, and I said to one of your local women this morning, I am always right. There's not a coincidence. I do know what I'm doing. And when it comes to local events being really accessible, so we look like a group of women meeting in a park, having a chat, talking, encouraging other women to come forward, not being a professional, organised outlet, so women don't feel that they can actually come in. No barriers whatsoever to any woman of any religion, of any culture, of any socioeconomic status, of any feminist reading or none, can actually come here and she can speak about what it is to be her and live her life, and be silenced and intimidated, or watch loved ones be gaslit and so on. So this is exactly what we're doing. And from this, the idea is, for you people at home, with locals, is my idea has always been that women form a really solid basis of a network where they are, that does things. And Let Women Speak is not about letter writing and campaigning. We're about nice, fun, action, doing things, meeting up with people, and being women together. That's going to be what we're doing. So we've got tabletop campaigns, we've got schools, hospitals, doctors. I was recently unlisted from my GP for refusing or commenting, maybe being a little bit rude, about someone with a pronoun badge. And so these are the things, I mean, it's not just happening to me. When I talk about that, and each and every one of you, whoever speaks on this microphone, when you talk about something, there's at least 100 women out there who go, yeah, me too. Yeah, that happened to me. And since I talked about being unlisted, there's another, at least 5 people that got unlisted from their GPs for complaining about progress flags in their GP surgeries. And then they had that same thing. It's like a get out for GPs and practices, that they can say the relationship has broken down. So as soon as you disagree with them, they can say the relationship's broken down, and then you're out. And it might be more serious sometimes than a pronoun badge or a progress pride flag. It might be something really serious, like them affirming your children as being the opposite sex. And we know that once that person is embedded in that surgery, because my surgery's I've never seen a hint of it. And then as soon as somebody starts there with a binder calling herself he, him, then we are all subjected to the ideological cult just taking over that surgery. So I've heard that Wrexham's relatively bad in these areas, which is why Wrexham is on today. So I will hand over to the first speaker, whoever wants to speak. I think it's going to be you, Diana.
Thank you. Hello, Wrexham. Fabulous to see you all. As I look around, I see so many faces I know very well. Because, walk a bit closer to the microphone. Okay, do that.
Also, you're like normal size, aren't you? So
It's like a hobbit with Gandalf.
Okay.
Who said that? Yeah, well.
When I look around, I recognise so many faces because most of us have met before. I've met you in Edinburgh or Liverpool or Birmingham or at Hyde Park Corner, where Kellie-Jay started the first Let Women Speak and has taken it nationally and internationally. And now Wales. What a coup for us! So if you're local to this area of Wrexham in Wales, you can be sure you're standing next to another woman who has been there and done that and has your back and will support you here locally, because we're not just doing this today. Oh no, we're coming back again and again, and our aim is to grow a local group of Wrexham women to represent them and their needs. And with that in mind, I have a speech prepared by someone who is so disappointed they couldn't come here today, because they did the first ever Let Women Speak locals in Macclesfield. Now, some of you know her name. It's Yvette. So she would have me say this to you. Yvette says, "I'm sorry I can't be with you. I organised Macclesfield Let Women Speak locals event. We made TERF history on the 2nd of June 2024. We're making history too. This is Wales, okay? This is a dream Kellie-Jay Keen had, and we did it. You're doing it. I'm so proud of what I started, proud to be now part of an even bigger community of women in the Macclesfield area, women who have all the same mindset as we do. We want the government to listen, we want the government to know that women are a force to be reckoned with, as if you could doubt that. And that we will all go mama bear to ensure safety for our children. Who else understands the importance of single-sex spaces but us? Well, this is our time to bring Let Women Speak locals to your area here in Wrexham. Every one of you can do this. Organise your own event. Be more Kellie-Jay. Be more Yvette. I would. Be out on the streets. Shout it loud. Okay, here we go, guys. No man has a vagina.
No man has a vagina.
No woman has a penis.
No woman has a penis.
Non-binary is bloody bollocks.
Non-binary is bloody bollocks.
Excellent. And that is all she said. Right. The wolf agrees. Right, who would like to speak now?
Are you going to do
Yeah.
girls?
Haven't got that on me. Who else would like to speak?
I'm quite happy to speak, but I thought you were going to do something about girls.
I am, but it's over there.
Right. Okay. Speak.
All right, come speak.
I'm a hobbit too. So.
Hobbit, I'm not touching this, it will break in my hands. Too clumsy. Our next speaker.
It is. Miss Keen.
Oh, sorry. That's because
I'm a hobbit.
yeah, there's a special way to host this.
Thank you. Well, hello, Wrexham. I'm Beth, and I'm a woman. I feel like I'm at an AA meeting. I also have multiple sclerosis, MS. Last year, during the holy month of Pride, the MS Society added the progress flag to their social media icons. I asked them, would they support a woman asking for single-sex intimate care? This is what they answered. MS does not discriminate, and neither do we. We'll continue to champion and campaign for the equality of the whole MS community. That's why we support Pride Month and why we changed our logo last week. We'll carry on fighting for access to better treatments for everyone. Each person in our community will have equitable access to treatment, no matter their gender, sexual orientation, ethnicity, religious belief, age or stage of MS. What did they leave out there? Sex. Essentially, that's a no, isn't it? No, they won't support women needing intimate care. And MS does discriminate. 75% of people suffering from MS are women. MS is a weird-ass disease. It can affect any part of your body at any time. Hell, last week, I couldn't feel my face. So that was great for doing my moustache and my eyebrows. And I peed on the cat twice. I could wake up tomorrow and not have the use of my legs. I will need intimate care, probably sooner rather than later. I need to know that even at my most undignified moments, where I have no control of my body, I still have control over my consent. To my body. There are hundreds of thousands of women and girls with debilitating conditions who deserve dignity and safety in healthcare. In March, some of you will remember this, a young woman working for the Inclusive Story House Theatre in Chester, you're quiet, told me I was akin to a racist for asking for single-sex intimate care. And not, and expecting a woman and not some bloke in a dress getting his yah-yahs and wearing a nurse's outfit. Our charities and institutions are absolutely captured by this. We need to get on the boards and trustees. That's the way to do it. They infiltrated, we need to infiltrate back. I mean, these wonderful women in the Party of Women Who Stood, they were fantastic. And that's what we need to do, but not just for Parliament, not just for the Senate, God help us with the Senate, but with all the boards, the trustees, the governing bodies. That's where we can start being the change, because this pernicious, toxic ideology is in every sodding policy they've got. So that's what we should all do. Thank you very much.
Well done. Thank you so much. Thank you. Can I have the other one as well? Oh, I think it's something. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. All is forgiven, Mary. Let's have a look. Let's just switch these a moment, callers. There we go. phones so nobody can steal them either. So it'll all be just like that. Okay, so we're here in the beautiful Wrexham, and I believe you have proportional representation. Partly. Yeah. What does that mean?
Complicated. We have regional MSs.
Regional MSs.
I object to that anachronism. And we have also constituency. So you vote for the constituency first.
So in the Senate. In that thing, it's proportional representation.
The constituencies are voted first past the post. The regionals are all.
Thank you.
And now we're going to have closed lists.
Yeah. All right, you might have to get up in a minute and come and explain that to everybody, because Party of Women has a really good chance in places where there is proportional representation. And I'm so delighted that Charlotte's here today. I'm really hoping she's going to speak. But she stood as one of our councillors and did really, really well. And what happens with Party of Women, and Let Women Speak is amazing, don't get me wrong, I'm certainly not going to say that it's not fantastic, but Party of Women gives you an opportunity to speak on platforms that we can't speak. The reason we're in a park today is because if I tried to do this in a venue, it's very likely the venue would be intimidated and cancelled. Yes. Well, you have certain protections when you are standing as a candidate, and so I implore every one of you, regardless of how you feel about other issues, this single issue is what Party of Women is about, which is about being able to protect your children, knowing what they're doing in school, having rights over your children above and beyond the teachers, like genuinely having all decisions about children, about your own children being your decision, nobody else's. It's about women being able to speak freely, and it's about women being able to have the autonomy to have our own spaces without really needing to explain a good reason why we want them. A good enough reason to say a man cannot be in a particular group for women is that we just don't want a man in that particular group. It doesn't have to be that we're vulnerable. We don't have to be half naked. We don't have to be victims of assault. We can just say, actually, this is a group for women, and so women only is exactly what it will be. Yeah. I'm just sick and tired of people saying, oh, well, what about religious women? What about these women? What about all women? Yeah. What about anyone, regardless? When we are allowed, when we are watching, cheering for a man punching a woman very hard in the face and breaking her nose for an Olympic sport, and then you've got Macron staring at that man like he wants to have a relationship with him. But you've also got everyone going, she was born female, because actually people don't really understand the issue. The issue is that fighter might have been born and recognised as female. That might well have happened. But definitely come puberty, they would have known that they were not female. The scouts that went along, the coaches that went along and scouted them because they knew that they could win in a fight and everyone could earn a nice little bit of cash, they all knew that that was a man with an intersex condition, or DSD. Yep. Everybody knew it. Same with Caster Semenya. That doesn't mean that that particular person hasn't had a tough time probably coming to terms with the fact that they thought they were a biological sex and they weren't. That must be dreadful. But that still doesn't make me feel any pity for him when he punches a woman in the face in the ring. When he takes a woman's place, and when he steps into that ring and everyone around just stays silent. So I wish, I understand she's apologised, I wish she hadn't. I wish she'd continue to be the woman that so many little girls across the world actually genuinely need to see. That would have been ideal for me. Anyway, who else would like to speak? Oh, yes.
Hello. This isn't my speech. I've been asked to read it out.
Kelly.
No, because they're... No.
With Labour being in government for only 1 month, there are lots of things for women to be concerned about with regard to our rights as a female sex class. All the wins we thought we had gained under the Conservatives are under threat. After a long and successful campaign against men being held in female prisons, keeping prisons single-sex secured a revised prison policy that was put in place. Well done then. It was understood to mean that it was guaranteed that no male could be sent to the female estate as a first allocation, meaning that there was an amount of time required to accrue the information needed to allow an exception of the policy to take place. It wasn't a full win. We didn't secure our rights that Elizabeth Fry fought for 101 years ago, but it was a start. In recent weeks, it has become apparent that a male called Joanna Rowland Stewart has been moved from the male estate to Downview Prison within the female estate. The trans activist is awaiting trial for the gruesome murder of his husband. Redux have an article about this crime. Northern Radfem Network are looking to join forces with women's groups across the country to protest this infiltration of the female estate by men. We're looking for feminists and women's groups in England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and Ireland to network together to protest at every female prison across the country at the same time on the same day, making it blatantly clear that this Labour government, that we will not accept this encroachment of our rights. SMARMA has not learned from the mistakes Nicola Sturgeon made and needs to understand that women are united across the country. If you or a group are affiliated with, want to join us, please DM Northern Radfem Network on Twitter. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Twitter's down. It's always Twitter. Okay, who else would like to speak? Come on. Can I say something? Yeah, of course.
Yay!
My name's Claire. I was born in 1959 and I'm a domestic abuse survivor. It's apparent to everybody born up to a certain era. You took biology in school. There are two sexes. When your babies are born, you are told what a beautiful baby boy, what a beautiful baby girl. If they choose to live a different life when they grow up, that's fine. That's people's choice. It's about choice. But if you are a male and you decide to become female, but you still got your bits, you are not a female. Now, it's common sense to people to just think, why are they invading the women's spaces? They don't invade the men's spaces because they don't feel safe. But yet they come into our spaces with their tackle, parading around where there's children in swimming baths, in our toilets. Why hasn't anyone just come up with a concept? Let's make a third toilet issue. Let's make a third swimming baths dressing room for transgenders. If you want to be a transgender, be a transgender, but have your own space, because there's enough of them now that they are entitled to their own space rather than being in ours. That way, we're safe and they're also feeling safe. It's common sense. Why is this such an issue that people cannot understand? Why are they invading women's spaces? The answer is simple. They want to eradicate women. I'm sorry, but they no longer want women. We haven't even got our own name anymore. We have to be cis women. The word cis gets right up my nostrils, and that wasn't what I was going to say, but I'm being polite because there's children present. Why are we suddenly identified as cis? I'm not cis, I'm a woman. I don't identify as a woman. I am a woman. I was born a woman. I'm a woman. I don't need to wear a badge. If I dress like a man and you think she might be a man, that's okay. That's up to you. But I don't need to correct you. I am a woman, born a woman, still a woman, will never be anything other than a woman. I do not want to go to the swimming baths and see a man with his tackle out. I'm sorry, I don't. I don't want to go into a toilet with my granddaughter and there's a man in there. I don't want to let her into the toilets by herself because there might be a man present. And it might be that these trans women who look like women and do not cause any issue with anybody. But if you've got a hairy-assed face, full beard and full tackle, I'm sorry, you're not a woman.
I'm going to bring you on the line a little bit further. So, there's not a single man that can look like a woman because he isn't a woman. And I'm going to say to you, you can call them men. Every day of the week, you can just call them men. We don't need to afford these men any kindness. And I'm gonna bring you really fast, full peak. I'm gonna tell you about so a long time ago when we knew the NHS was not differentiating between men and women, and they were calling men women and allowing them on wards, and it happened to somebody I know personally in 2016 when she went into a psychiatric ward for deeply distressed, traumatized women with acute psychosis. And her thing was she was frightened of men. That was her psychosis, including her husband and her young son. And she went into this ward, and on her records, the nurses wrote she was a transphobic bigot, like on her notes, because she said that the person next to her was a man and she didn't like it. About 5 years later, so this was all gaslighting in the most, in a setting where women are so mentally and physically vulnerable. And 5 years later, she called me and she said, the man that's just been caught with 80,000 images of child rape and abuse? I said, yeah. And she said, that's the man that was next to me in the ward. That's the man that she got accused of being a transphobic bigot. Now, all that time we've gone, yeah, but you could end up with a chaperone. Right, the big thing about the NHS, you could end up with a chaperone and have two men in the room while you're being physically examined. That seems an extreme example. And yet there's a lady that phoned into TERF Talk, and that's exactly what happened to her. She's got multiple autoimmune illnesses and conditions due to a diagnosis about 10 years ago. Prior to that, she had been a nurse. And she asked for a chaperone, or she was offered a chaperone with a consultant who she's known for about 10 years. She's got 3 consultants that she sees routinely, and she has numerous hospital stays. And she said the consultant who she likes and trusts, and it's taken a long time to get to a place where she feels that her treatment is right for her, so she doesn't want to jeopardize that relationship. And she said, that she asked for the chaperone. She looks down and she sees the feet of this chaperone, and it's actually a man. So the person called in to chaperone is a man in a dress with her male consultant. So there's 2 men in that room with one woman feeling vulnerable and exposed and powerless. Now this is quite she seemed like a pretty, I'm not going to say feisty because that often means rude, but she seemed like a strong woman who's been through a lot, who's a very capable, articulate woman. And she knew at that moment that she couldn't say it because she would jeopardize that what she could risk in that moment for saying I object was far too great. And so she couldn't. So she had to sit there and she had to have the full dialogue in her head. Shall I say something? What's it going to cost? Shall I not say something? Oh my God, this is so terrible. I can't believe this is happening. I knew this was happening. Like the full dialogue, when you're in a moment of real high stress, you have the full dialogue with yourself, and that's what she did. And she knows she can't complain the next time she goes, because if the doctor confirms that that indeed was a man, then he's guilty of gross misconduct and he can lose his job. So everyone is totally bound by this ideology, and until we get it out of every single hospital, every doctor's brain, every single middle management HR person, it's going to continue to poison every single place that it is allowed to fester. We just have to bring the grown-ups back in the room, and we have to say, no, no more, no thank you, no way. Okay.
Hello, I have another speech. A bit closer.
Thank you very much.
Right. I have another speech from a woman who cannot give the speech herself. So she's asked me to write it down and read it out to you all. So I hope I do her justice. She is a mother whose daughter was always a gifted sportswoman, and she found the sport of her choice, and she trained and competed with a man who identified as a woman. And I'll tell you how this came about. His name was Lauren Jessica. Some of you know because you live here. Jessica comes from Machynlleth in Powys, about 40 miles from here. After 6 years of his competing in the women's category, the sport is fell running, and there were many complaints over these years about his right to run against women. His titles became in doubt, and the UK athletics body were reassessing whether he had an unfair advantage competing against women. This row had been brewing since 2008. And that was the time he suddenly emerged on the scene. So you have to understand that the team of young women, fell runners, they all knew each other. And when they went abroad or to different parts of the United Kingdom, they all knew their competition and they knew who to expect. They'd earned their stripes there. But this woman, Lauren Jessica, just tips up and goes on and wins and wins and wins. And as an independent, he later became a fully fledged member of the United Kingdom team. So this row that had been brewing since 2008 reached its peak in 2017, and he got into a row with British officials. The thing is, he always travelled with knives, plural, and he attacked a British official, stabbing them in the neck. 2 other officials came to try and rescue this poor guy who's stabbed in the neck, who now has life-changing injuries, as we say these days. And they too were stabbed. He was arrested. He was prosecuted. He was sentenced to 17 years in prison for his crime of attempted murder. So there's a bit more backstory on this. Go back to where it started in 2008. So all these women knew each other. They now have a new member of the team, and they can't come close to challenging him in any of these events. They thought there was something funny about him, but then I rang Ex-Ulanzik this morning, and she gave me some language to describe what is in front of you. You know it doesn't make sense, you know it's not right, but in your mind, alarm bells don't ring, because no one in authority will confirm your suspicions. And that's where these young women were. The word we all know, gaslighting, went on. And they got on with what they had to do, training and running and competing. He never shared a dorm room with them when they were travelling. He said to the officials he had a particular health condition and he needed his own accommodation. There were lots of subterfuge that was used by him to disclose his real sex, which was male. His passport was not often used when he became a member of the UK team, because back then, throughout the early 2000s, you didn't always need a passport to cross borders. You were on the team bus, etc. Or he travelled independently. So this is how he got away with it for so long. But when these young women noticed, they couldn't ignore anymore. This woman had an Adam's apple. He was a man. His body wasn't just trained to an extraordinary degree so that he was so huge and so capable. He really was a man all along. Now, many of these, there was a consequence for these young women in the team. They were told they had to train harder, they had to be more committed, they had to watch what they ate, because they were never going to catch him otherwise. And they took this very seriously. Such was their ambition and their pride in their sport. But over the years of training, and it's called underfueling when you don't eat properly, it caused ill health for some of these young women, sometimes permanently. It's actually called an acronym of REDS, which stands for Relative Energy Deficiency in Sport, and results in permanent weakening of the bones, osteoporosis, decrease in hormone levels. These young women, some of their periods stopped, and they also acquire an eating disorder because of the regime they're pushing themselves through. But Jessica just kept winning. And then he moved to Wales and ran for Wales. In fact, he's still, as a woman, holding the record for the women's park run in Aberystwyth. It's never been changed. So the complaints were sent to the UK Athletics Board. It took them 6 years to address this. Meanwhile, many of these young women competitors failed to be placed first, or failed to be selected for the team in the first place, because he was always ahead of them. Plus they were severely ill through overtraining. So all through these years of disgraceful unfairness, young women didn't give up. They tried even harder to chase their dream of winning, but they had no chance against Jessica. In 2023, the UK Athletics Board changed the rules. 2023, I believe that was last year, so that this could never happen again. But as far as these young women are concerned, their fell running career is over. It's finished. They've had their time, and there is no going back and putting it right. How wrong is that? This crime in sport, for women's sport, goes back decades.
Yes.
It's just we know about it now because of boxing. All to the good. It has to stop. Thank you.
Kelly, can
Hello.
I just follow up on that boxing bit?
Yes?
I'm even littler than you, I think. So. Yes, we're right the way down now. Quarter Welsh, actually. Hello, I'm Sarah. I just want to say a few words following on from that little talk about sports. And what I want to say is, I haven't prepared anything, so this is totally off the cuff, so it'll be useless. So cheer me afterwards, just to, give me a bit of a boost. What I want to say is, I watched this morning the International Olympic Committee chairman speaking at a press conference, and he was asked, fortunately we now have journalists who are challenging the IOC, even though their media guide tried to shut down all discussion of this. He was asked about the boxing scandal, and I'm sure, is everybody aware of the boxing scandal? Yeah, I thought you all would be. He was asked about it, and he said, this is not a matter of transgender. After that, very shortly after that, the IOC media office issued a hasty correction, because we all know it's not about transgender, don't we? Yeah. But their correction said, this is not about DSD. Well, it's not about DSD either. It's about men. Men. Let's call them what they are. They are men. It doesn't matter whether they have a DSD. It doesn't matter whether they have a mental illness. It doesn't matter if they are simply gender non-conforming. I don't care. They're men. We have got to use the language. Don't give in. Be brave. I know it's difficult for some of us because of work and so on, but we must stand up and we must insist that we call men men. That was it. Thank you.
I was just talking to a gentleman in the crowd, and he said that at his old school here, in Wrexham, they've got mixed sex toilets, and the girls wait right until the end of the day and then rush into Morrison's to use the toilets. This is happening everywhere. It's not harmless.
They rush to Morrison's at lunchtime.
And at lunchtime, apparently, they go to Morrison's. It's some of these things are sort of are sold to people as a kindness. There really is nothing kind about boys or girls having no dignity or privacy at school. I don't know too many boys who want to go to the toilet in school and then come out and see a girl at the sink. Much less women. I've talked about this before when I went to the hustings in Bristol. It was in a large school. The group is called Oasis Academy Group. It's a very well-funded school. There'll be some nice fat salaries of the people making serious amounts of money out of our children's education. Who knew that once you started putting private funding and people being able to make profit out of kids' education that they would do it? Who knew? But you have these toilets, and it's really difficult to explain if you've not seen some of these toilets in schools. It's not even a separate room that just doesn't have doors or has a wide door. It's like a weird cutout of a vast hallway. So when you walk through, when you come out of the toilet, and let's say it's not for a quick wee, when you come out of those toilets, you're straight into the public area. So everyone can see you. Everyone knows you've just been in the loo, but you don't have a sink in there. You have to come out and share your sink next to somebody else. I just can't imagine how that is for 11-year-old girls who maybe come out in unison with an 18-year-old boy. It's absolute madness that any of this is happening. And at the same hustings, there were different changing rooms with different toilets in. I can honestly tell you there wasn't a single person that didn't spend between 5 and 15 seconds trying to work out which toilets and which place they had to use. And when my husband went in the men's, 3 very confused women came out because they had no idea where they were going. So when they came out, they looked at my husband like he was in the wrong place. So this is what's happening to girls. Now the big danger is not just that discomfort, but learning that that discomfort is your issue only. Yes. Yeah. It's not an issue that you can go and raise with a teacher, because you'll just be shrugged. It's a bit like how we used to have communal showers, right? Everyone would just, oh well, that's just how it is. Your discomfort is not really important. Just get on and have a shower. And I think that's what's happening to girls, although it's so much worse now because these are mixed sex spaces. And so they're being gaslit and conditioned into suppressing and then being probably not able to recognise their own distress and discomfort, and certainly not being able to label it and talk about it. So that's what's happening to a whole generation of our children. It's not just those individual moments that are uncomfortable. It is the mass gaslighting of children to a point that they won't even know what that feeling means because they can't articulate it. And I don't know what that will do to a whole generation of kids, but I don't think it's going to be that great. And I do think that gaslighting and Darvo and lying and not allowing anybody to speak freely, that leads to frustration. And frustration without any outlet will absolutely lead to violence. It just will. We will have a very unhappy generation, and maybe the boys will be unhappy and violent and the girls will be unhappy and quiet. But either way, I don't think it's looking that great. Okay, uplifting. Who else would like to speak? Yes.
Hello, my name's Carly. I'm a single mother. I have 3 daughters. Wow. And my issue may be slightly wider than everybody else's. I agree totally that men should not be invading women's spaces, and I've tried to instill into my 3 daughters that fact and to embrace their femininity, the fact that they are women. We have a lot to be proud of. Yeah. My other issue is my youngest daughter is now claiming to be a boy. and hasn't spoken to me for 3 months. She has been kicked out of my house, not just because of this issue, but other issues. Lying about me to the school, all of this stuff. The school and her college allowed her to change her name behind my back when she was under the age of 18. They've allowed her to pretend to be a boy, and that is my big concern right now. Also, I've had family members indoctrinate her into that way of thinking. They are no longer my family members, and I will be taking a stand for the rest of my life against it. And I just wanted to say that for me, it's not just men pretending to be women, it's also women and girls pretending to be boys and men, and it being okay. Not once have I ever seen my daughter use a male bathroom, never. And it's just disgusting to me. So I just wanted to make that known, that I'm not just here for what we're all here for, I'm also here for it being the other way around.
Yes.
Thank you.
That brings it home a little bit, doesn't it? I think there are many, we've had quite a lot of mothers who've been through really similar things with their daughters or their sons, but more women come with concern for their daughters to let women speak. And I can't imagine, your kids have basically joined a cult, right? That's what's happened. And the programming is so successful. I think there's a lady who's just come back from Paris who's just arrived. Good gracious, she gets about. I saw that woman, I swear I saw that woman on YouTube in Paris. Photos, and I'm going to get her to speak in a minute, whether she likes it or not. I'm sure she will anyway. But yes, I think like we have to consider that this is a cult. It's it operates like a cult. It's as pernicious as a cult. It's so difficult to unravel. One of the things when these kids are groomed online is they're told that their parents are the enemy, and that is totally confirmed by the school, who will treat your parents as if they are the enemy, that they don't really care about you, they're not going to understand, and therefore they will keep your secrets. So I think that when we have to learn ways, and there are some women who say they're successful in this, but there are ways, and we have to learn how to rescue our kids from this cult. And obviously prevention is much easier than cure. So some of my top tips: if your kids have got social media of any kind, it can't be private. We have a 5-second rule, not for over 18s, that would be weird. But we have a 5-second rule in our house. It's my phone, I pay the bill, and you've got 5 seconds to unlock it. And I can have a look at history, and if you've deleted history, then you get your phone confiscated. Try not to let your kids not come down for dinner. Make sure you converse with them on a daily basis. And sometimes it doesn't matter what you do, you can have the most wonderful, happy, secure, solid, superb family. But if your daughter in particular gets in with a group of pernicious, cliquey, nasty girls, she won't have her own mind anymore anyway. And she'd much rather, it's much safer for children to keep in with their friends. Like developmentally, they need to keep in with their friends more than you. So it doesn't matter what you've taught them actually by that point. That's why more children get run over if they're crossing with a group of friends. Because if their friends run across the road, the risk of getting hit by a car is not as great as the risk of all their friends saying they're a chicken. And that sounds ridiculous, but that's why kids smoke, that's why kids are impacted by social contagion, and this is a very powerful social contagion. But I just would recommend just keep communications open, and it's always all right to say no and mean it. And I take it that's what that lady has done with her daughter, is she said no and she's meant it. So well done. Okay. Who else would like to speak?
Explain the Senate.
Yes, come and explain that. All right, this lady is going to do a party political broadcast on behalf of Party of Women. She's going to now explain how the voting system works here, so you can exploit it, and so you make sure that you can get your big lady foot through the door. Yeah? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello again.
Really close then.
Right.
Really close.
My boobs get in the way.
Yeah.
All right, love. Man telling me what to do. Shocking. Right. The Senate. It used to be 36, 60, 60 something. Anyway, I can't remember how. We are now getting more MSs, members of the Senate. Part of them, the regionals, the constituencies like Wrexham. We have Leslie Griffiths. Do you know, I introduced her once as Leslie Phillips at an event. I was so embarrassed. Leslie, ding dong. Leslie Griffiths, who is hopeless, as you all know. She is our MS for Wrexham. We have 4 regional. Now the regionals are voted in on the PR system. So we have a mixture of first past the post for the constituencies and the regionals. They're changing that now. We're now going to have 60 more MSs, something like that. The majority of which will be voted in on the PR, but it will be what's called closed lists. We won't know who we're voting for. You just get the party, and they get to pick who gets those seats. We are not going to have anyone, you're not going to have a dissenting voice anymore. We're not going to have anyone who's willing to stand up to their own party and say, no, I don't agree with this. So the only people who are going to get a position in the Senate are those who will stick to the party line. And as we know, we live in a pretty much one-party state, and our particular Welsh Labour are very TRA, completely captured. And we are basically screwed.
It's Scotland all over again.
It's Scotland all over again. And the other thing they're doing, which they're getting through because of course they've got the votes, is the gender balance bill. Have we all heard of the gender balance bill?
Yes.
So isn't it great? We're going to have a law that says they have to have equal number of men and women candidates. Well, we couldn't argue with that, surely. We want 50-50 in the Senate. We want 50-50 in the Parliament. Except they will accept you saying what gender you are. So now we have got self-ID in Wales.
Shameful.
Which is illegal. It's completely against the Equality Act 2010.
Beth, are there any checks and balances at all in
No, no checks and balances. They have, if you don't get the correct number of gender balance, as they call it, there might be a fine, but they haven't decided what level of fine it will be, and they will just accept you saying, I'm a man, I'm going to go and stand, or I'm a woman, I'm going to go and stand with them.
So theoretically, in the name of gender balance, we could end up with a 100% male
You could
Senate.
end up with a 100%, because we won't know who you're voting. You don't know who you're voting for. It's just the name of the party. So you don't, and that also means you can't vote out rubbish MSs. So this is where we are now. The opposition, Tories just don't have enough power. They don't have enough oomph. They haven't got enough seats. Party for Women might get some more, hopefully, if we do in the next one. Yes, 2026. We will see, but this is a problem we have in Wales. And, you know, everything's devolved, health has devolved, so we're not going to get the same health that they had in England, where we don't even know if they're going to implement fully the caste review here. We don't know. We don't know if they've got rid of Annex, what's it called, Annex 2? B, Annex B. We don't know if they've got rid of that. So we don't, and the schools, education has devolved, and the minister previous, Jeremy Miles, was totally into queer theory. And that's what the whole curriculum's based on. So we have more problems in Wales than they had in England. It might change now that there's Labour governments in, who knows? Who knows? But that's the short thing of the Senate. Vote for Party for Women.
Oh, so much hope, so much hope. in Keir Starmer. Look, I just want to say, I say this all the time. I do really mean it. I sound obnoxious, but I do mean it. I am always right. And when it comes to Labour, I didn't know that I'd be proven so right so quick. I thought it might take them a little bit longer to be authoritarian, nasty, awful people. Yeah, but they've done so well. They've done so well. And I think Jess Phillips, without irony, said that, you know, sometimes people feel ignored. And I thought, does she mean her own constituents? I think she was replying to DJ Lippy, who said that, you know, people feel really ignored. And then Jess Phillips sort of replied, and then Katie replied, yeah, well, you've ignored us, or it might have been Adjo, you've ignored us when we've been telling you about male violence and intimidation when women try to speak. And Jess Phillips ignored that, which I thought was marvellous. But there's so much of this going on where somebody basically looks you in the face and lies to your face. Like, it's not even political spin anymore. They really are just looking at you and lying to your face. And I know, and I'm hoping you're going to speak on. There's a lady here who in her employment has just been lied to. Then there's Natalie Bird. She went to her was it something to do with the Liberal Democrats? She wore a woman, adult, human, female t-shirt. They let her go through 3 years of thinking she might have a chance of losing her case. And then on the day, they get into court and they go, yeah, all right, fair cop, yeah, we did it, yeah, all right, yeah, okay, yeah, we did it. Oh, the last 3 years? Oh, no. We just thought we'd do the process is the punishment thing and just force you into just having 3 unholy, awful, stressful years. But yeah, we did it. I mean, who knew? I'm just seeing what children are here. Who knew? Somebody who said about pickleballs, right up in the upper echelons of the Liberal Democrats are plenty of men who call themselves women. It is a very scary, intolerable place. Look, I don't know why anyone would belong to the Liberal Democrats, considering their views on this issue. I mean, fine, if you agree with other stuff, but for me, this is such a massive issue. Yes. There isn't a political party that I could possibly join because they're all so bad on this, and this is so important to me. Yes. It's so important to all of us, whether it's your daughter, your sons, your mums, your dad, yourself. I just don't see why you'd ever vote for a party that isn't going to actually resolve this issue for all of us. Okay, who else would like to speak? Stop looking around. Are you coming? Come on then. Oh, and then. Oh, it's like that's it. I'm making a bit emotional. Would you like to dog? Would you want someone to hold your dog?
Oh no, it's your dog and she's seen the dog.
Oh, it's a dog. Yeah, yep. Yeah.
Hi.
Oh, you might be a bit tall. Sorry. It's for free. You can have it for free.
Well, I came up today. This is my first time at one of these events. I've been watching you, most of you probably, for the last year or so every Saturday. Sorry, it might get a little bit emotional.
Do you want me to stand with you?
Right. Okay. I was raised as an Orthodox mum. Have I got, how much time have I got?
As much as you want. Carry on. You carry on.
Okay. So I'm nearly 50. I'm 50 next year. And I was raised as an Orthodox Mormon, which I feel kind of held me back. And a couple of years ago, I was looking for a therapist to deal with mental health, obviously. Being raised as a Mormon, it has to come out at some point. All of that pent-up shame and guilt. And I started just hearing little things. I think you call it peaking. And I'd be one of those people
because I was raised as a woman, you know, be kind, be sweet, be sensuous but not sexy, be attractive but not come hither, all of those things, you know. And so I was one of those women that thought there was, what's wrong with all these people? Why can't you just be kind, you know? To the point where my son and I used to argue. We're very, very close. But he knew all of this, you know, he'd kind of left the church long ago. Anyway, 2 years ago, I discovered that the man that I'd been told had restored the true gospel of God on the earth was a sexual predator. And
That's all right.
and it opened up a whole mess of memories, which my brain, I guess, had protected me from. And I fell down a really, really deep rabbit hole because I wanted to know the truth. I wanted to form my own opinions on the world, and so I've literally spent the last couple of years in a room, pretty much, when I'm not working. I'm self-employed, thank the Lord. Well, thank goodness. Sorry. So yeah, because I felt like I needed to reframe, re-educate myself, and learn all the things that once the blinkers had come off, you know. And it's been pretty overwhelming, I won't lie. And this whole week, I've wanted to come to one of these for months and months and months. But I've always found an excuse not to, I think, because I've almost conditioned myself to be in a small room with my own thoughts, and it's something I needed to do. But in doing that, like I say, I conditioned myself to be alone and to be uncomfortable around crowds, and so when I saw that you were in Wrexham, all of you, I thought, right, I can't make excuses anymore. And actually, one of the things that really drove me here was when the local elections kicked off. I can't remember when they were, sort of way back earlier in the year. It was something I really wanted to do. I'm quite an articulate speaker, you know. I've been taught through being raised as a Mormon to stand up on the stand, bear my testimony publicly, and you know. And so it's something I really wanted to do, but because of my lack of resilience mentally and physically, because of the breakdown and because of all this stuff that I've had to deal with over the last few years, I just wasn't in a place. And then June came round. Or June, when were the elections? June?
July.
July, sorry.
June? July.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's
No,
say July.
Yeah, not so long ago.
4th of July.
And Party of Women became a thing, and I wanted to sort of step up for that as well, and was not in a position. And so I've decided this week that I can't sit on my arse, you know, in my little room. I know where I need to be. I know the hill that I'm willing to literally die on. When you've spent enough time thinking about your own death, which I have over the last few years, I'm not going to lie. Sorry. But when you've done that and fought against it, hour by hour, day by day, when you find a truth such as this, that no man has a vagina. I mean, the fact that I have to say that out loud, and it gets cheers. I mean, it's insane to me. And no woman has a penis. The fact that they think that they can indoctrinate our kids. I mean, my children are grown up, thank fuck. Sorry if there's any children. But honestly, I have been so grateful that my kids, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be fighting for everybody else's kids and everybody else's grandchildren, my grandchildren I hope to have someday, you know, my mother, myself. I'm going to be 80 and crumbling at some point in my life, and I would really love to know that when I'm having my personal care, my daughter's having her personal care, any woman that I know has the dignity and the option. And not even the option, because we don't want a dude faffing about with us when we're in our vulnerable states, do we? Sorry?
Yep.
We want a woman.
We do want a woman.
The old-fashioned.
Anyway, I think I've taken enough of your time.
No, that was lovely.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's just get off our asses and create an army that no one will mess with.
Oh, I don't know what to say after that, except thank you for sharing that testimony as to why we all come to this. And it'll be different for all of us. Some of us will have deeply personal stories. Some of us will just not be able to accept that this crap is being spread. Some of us will have fears for our children, for our mothers, for ourselves. But I think at the very nub of all of it, none of us really like the lies. You just can't, you feel unmoored from reality if you are expected to believe lies. And I've probably talked about this too much, but I've recently reread Brave New World, and it feels like that's what we're in. Like 1984 is great, but it only goes so far, because Brave New World is all about kindness and stability. And all of these things, all this way that we're being fed, this is more of there's more carrot. Maybe not for us, but we're the savages, right? If you've read the book, we're the savages. We're the people that aren't part of this civilization. But the civilized people, they're the be kind. They're the kind of automaton. Just tune into your computer. Just believe BBC News. And I don't know if you follow Emily Maitlis. Oh my God. It's breathtaking. It's breathtaking. They really do. And the police, it's like, they really do want you to be angry or stupid. Because the lies are so blatant, so like in your face, so sneering, and just so vile about people like us, that it's got to be on purpose. I kind of feel like it's intentional. We are being destabilized intentionally, and for what? So they can come and bring new authoritarian rules about what we can and can't say, about who we can and can't speak to, about what powers the police have. And I would champion the fact that you could get rid of some fringe of some sort of protest, which I would call a bloody riot, which apparently, depending on your cause. So I was arrested during the summer of BLM. I was arrested because I tried to do a talk in Leeds. And I don't know if you know, but if you weren't marching for BLM, you could catch COVID. But if you were marching for BLM, you were totally immune. And you didn't have to do social distancing, you didn't have to wear masks. In fact, you could really smash up places and do criminal damage, but you were immune to all of that. Whereas a woman, and some of the women were in mobility scooters or had walking aids, and there was only about 15 of us. We had 2 police vans to come and tell us to break up. And they, oh my God, did that policeman love it. He absolutely loved saying to women, well, women's rights aren't political. And I was like, well, I think they are. Anyway, that's live streamed if you want to catch it on YouTube. I live streamed the whole thing because they couldn't work out how to switch my phone off. So when they put me in the back of the van, for my own safety, so I didn't catch COVID, because they were only doing it out of kindness. That was a whole summer of Be Kind. But they put me in the back of the police van, and then I went in a holding, I'm not going to say, it probably was a cell, but it was a holding room. I'm telling you, there were more remnants of human fluids of all descriptions on that wall that could have given me COVID than any amount of anything outside the art gallery in Leeds. I'm just saying. But anyway, who else would like to speak? Come on.
I think it's there. Is that it?
Yes.
So, I always used to wonder when I was a girl, a long time ago, if I would have been a suffragette, because some of my family were very involved in politics and the Chartist movement. I used to wonder, well, of course I have my answer now, because I am so engaged with and enraged about what's happening to women's rights in this country and how people just don't see it. So I want to talk a bit about something which is really very ordinary, but will affect all of us who are women, mothers, grandmas, which is local leisure centres. So where I live, the local authority has 14 leisure centres across the county. Some of them have mixed sex changing rooms with cubicles, and some of them have male and female changing rooms. And quite often when I go for a swim, I'll see little girls of maybe 9 or 10. They're there on their own, because going for a swim and then maybe having a coffee in the cafe is one of the few things that little girls can do on their own where they're safe. But of course they can't do that safely if in their local leisure centre there are trans-identified men that say they want to go into the women's changing room. Now I've asked at 2 of my local leisure centres, and at one of them there is a man who keeps insisting he wants to use the women's changing facilities. So far he's been fended off and he hasn't done. But when I have asked our local councillor now 4 times to raise this question with the council, will you allow trans-identified men, i.e. men that say they're women, into the women's changing rooms, he fobs me off. And he jokes and he says, oh, most people ask me about potholes and you ask me about penises. I say, no, I'm not asking about that. I'm asking about the safety of women and girls. Yeah. So for those of you that use leisure centres, or have daughters, or have grandchildren, this really matters. It's one of the few places, one of the few community places where young girls can go and feel safe. If we allow our local authorities to fall for be kind and also to completely misunderstand what's in the Equality Act, that sex is a defining characteristic and women need single-sex spaces, then what's going to happen? There's going to be incidents, and there's certainly going to be women and girls that won't use leisure facilities. I was up in Cumbria recently campaigning for the Party of Women, and I met an elderly lady well into her 70s. She and her 4 friends no longer go swimming anymore because there's a trans-identified man that insists on using the ladies' changing room. So it might seem like a minor thing, but it really matters to women and girls.
Maybe we should all invade the male spaces and
well, maybe we should invade the male spaces. I think not, on reflection. But make a point of asking your local authority about it, and don't be afraid to make a fuss. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I'm reminded that there's a woman in Colchester. She was doing aquafit and she was in her changing room and a man came in. And all these women were sort of probably above the age of 55. And it was their way of keeping fit. It was brilliant. And a man came in and started to do the class. And all the women were quite indignant. There was a lot of tutting and the lady that spoke in Colchester thought everyone was going to come down because they were all saying, well, this is not right, is it? She was the only one that went down. And then she self-excluded. And that was at a local leisure centre. And I think that's what happens all the time to women, is that we think, well, there's no point. You know, that's why, I'm not a fan of any hate crime. I think hate crime's a ridiculous thing. I think a crime is a crime. It doesn't really matter what was in your head while you were doing it. I think it's just a crime. But the idea of misogyny being a hate crime, we'd never report it. Have you ever tried to report a crime? I literally saw a really serious crime that someone had shared a video of. So I just thought, well, I'm just going to send that video to the police. Unless I wanted to be the lead witness and complainant, they wouldn't even look at the video. So unless I was willing to stand in a court and say this is what I saw as a witness to this video that they could have watched and been a witness to. And also whenever I've tried to report anything to the police, and I've got quite a lot to report to the police, it's like 4 or 5 hours. If I had to report every little minute of misogyny thrown my way as a hate crime, I don't think I'd even sleep. I just think I'd be at the police station the whole time because it's just so rife. And we don't complain, we self-exclude. we just say, well, that's rubbish, I'm not going to go again then. I'm not going to go. So yeah, that was that leisure centre, and I think all over the country, maybe if women could agree to self-exclude en masse, and then they don't get their revenue, maybe that would be good, but goodness knows. Young lady in the Save Women's Sports.
Yes. That's all right. I have my office.
Is that right? Yep. Okay. Hello everyone. I didn't think I'd be standing here today. And in general I didn't think I'd be standing here at all. If you told me a year ago I'd be standing here, you know, trying to stand up for myself, for women and girls and anything, I'd never believed it. I also didn't think, you know, I'd be doing any running, you know. You know, I only started it about 3 years ago, 4 years, 5 years ago, 2019, whenever that is. But my name's Michelle, and you may have seen me on Twitter that I post about Part 1. For anyone who doesn't know about Part 1, is that it's a, you know, a community event that happens every Saturday at 9 o'clock. And it's a grassroots movement that was set up just to get people moving. Originally, when you know, we all go through probably that stage where we put on a little bit of weight and we think, how are we going to shift it? So I started a Couch to 5K program. I ended up joining my local LGBT running club, then some of us may have heard that, you know, the Riley Gaines story with Leah Thomas. I saw this and I thought, oh, you know, this isn't right. And I had seen, everybody know Female Runner on Twitter, who's a brilliant advocate for female sports and the fairness. And I saw that she'd worn a t-shirt, so I was like, I'm going to get one of those t-shirts. Yeah. Every week we turn up with the LGBT club, we run the Part 1. As soon as I started doing that, all hell broke loose basically, because I was told that I couldn't wear my t-shirt at a Part 1. And they stopped me didn't necessarily stop, well, they necessarily stopped me, but I had the secretary from the committee come up to me telling me that I was out of order for wearing my t-shirt. Yeah. And obviously turned around and tried to get the rest of the group to basically turn against me, and I stood there at a Part 1 and everybody walked away. Yeah, it was the worst feeling in the world, because when we say LGBT, we're supposed to be full of love, aren't we? Love is love, yeah. You know, so, but there is a difference. With LGB, I asked the people to accept me for what I was, what I am, yeah. With TQ+, you know, they're asking to be accepted for what they're not. Yes. There's a big difference, yeah. I'm not the same as a man in a dress with a wig on. You know what I mean? And this is a really big message to the LGBT community, that you don't have to be afraid, you can stand up, you know, that those niggles that are inside of you, that are deep down and you know this is not right, you know, you need the courage to stand up. There are more of us out there that are more gay people out there that believe that this is not right. Yeah. So, you know, just have the courage. Now, after continuing with Part 1, I then had another member come up to me, you know, saying that I'm spreading hate, you know, and we all get this, don't we? We're transphobic, we're bigots, everything, yeah. So, you know, I left it. Then I got suspended from my running club. Yeah.
So I got suspended from my running club in December. I went back, they still haven't dealt with the complaint. They've just gaslighted me. I've gone to England Athletics. England Athletics are the governing body. Yeah, so Chris Jones, the CEO, I've took it right to the top. I've just been gaslighted, totally, yeah. It's not over yet, so we're just going to keep fighting it. But what really supported me was Mara Yamuchi and female runner and another load of ladies. They, you know, we decided to come down to Cannon Hill Park Run and make a stand. And if anybody would have seen it on Twitter, we all went round in our t-shirts to bring awareness. Now what happened after that? What happened after that was a cascade. It was like a domino effect. So Part Runner came back and said that they had said that they had taken no pictures of Mara at all at the Part Run. But luckily, we had a picture of the photographer taking a picture of Mara. What can you say? You can't say anything to that. So then it just went mad on Twitter, yeah. So, and what's happened the last things is that Part One are now censoring, you know, as much as they can. So they literally tried to censor it, and the comment on Facebook before it was deleted was, they told me not to. You know, they told me I couldn't take a picture with somebody in a Side Women's Sports t-shirt. Yet you've got people running in Part Run with defund the BBC. Yeah. You know.
Hooray!
Yeah, so you know, Part One after this, what they did was they took the stats away. So every week you get an email saying you've come 450th place out of 500 people, but then you might say, you know, I've got 10th place out of the females. Yeah, I don't know if my result's right, because Part One have a self-ID policy, and they say that anybody can come into the female category. Now we've had over 150 males who've taken female places. Part One are now taking those stats away not to show this. So what Part One did after that, they actually gave in to the men, basically. So they didn't protect the women, they didn't protect the female category, they're still not protecting it. And everybody says, the argument is, well, it's just a fun run. It's just a fun run. Now, I'm not the fastest runner, you can probably see, you know. I'm just going to bob along, but whether I get 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, it's important to me. Yeah. So, you know, I look at my stats and I'm thinking, oh, I'm not doing too bad for my age. I can keep, you know, I can keep going. Maybe I can beat that next woman, you know, and it keeps me motivated to stay fit. Now, this is the aim of Part One, to stay healthy. Yet they've taken these stats away, or they've hidden them. They still take, you know, who's the fastest in the Part One, you know, who came first, yeah. But they now hide the stats, so they're complicit in their self-ID policy, and they don't stand for women. There's no fairness for females. So every week we go out to a Part Run, and we, you know, wear the t-shirt. We try and send the message out, because at the end of the day, this is not it's a community event with a competitive element. Yeah, and when you're standing on that line at 9 o'clock, if you ever watch it, then you'll tell me it is not a fun one. When they're all looking at their watches, that is not a fun one. It has a start, it has a finish, it has times. If it is a fun one, take away the categories, take away the times. People turn up at 9 o'clock, go and run, stop, that's it. But Part One don't want that, because they lose their funding, and they've been funded by Sport England to increase the participation for women. of all things. Yeah. So this is where we are, right here. But when you go to that park run, and whether you're 200th place, 100th place, you don't know where you are. The men do. You know, we don't. You know, so when we got the Olympics this week, you know, where do those elite people come from?
Yeah.
Where do you think they don't just turn out fresh air and just suddenly appear? Do you know what I mean? These come from these community projects. So part one is important, because this is the message they're giving to women and girls, is that it doesn't matter, you're not valued, who cares? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who cares? So when we're sitting there with our girls, with my nieces, you know, with other women, you know, my own age, younger, older, we've got, you know, they're telling us we've got no value. So the men have got value because they can have the results, but we don't know. So this is where children and women, we need these grassroots community things. We need the projects. We need the local boxing clubs, the local football clubs, you know, all of these, and they need to be fair from grassroots upwards. Because fairness starts from the bottom up, and this is where our elite athletes come from.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. I'm telling you, Wrexham, this was such a fabulous venue. So well done for everybody who organised, because you are piquing people that you had no idea that might have come along just to see how hateful we all were, and now is leaving newly peaked. So how marvellous is that? Well done, you. Tara, you coming? You speaking? Yeah.
No, it's fine. I'm not local, so I'm happy to go whenever. But I have got to get back to Morrison to move the car.
Sure, we'll definitely be next. As long as you get us all some bakewells.
Hello. I'm Tara. I'm from Stockport, so I'm a little bit local. Yeah, Stockport. So I'll just briefly talk about two things. I did go to Paris yesterday. I was not a competitor. I'm built for comfort, not for speed. But when I got home last night, I've got a speeding ticket. So apparently, I'm built for speed as well as comfort. So if anyone knows what sport that makes me an expert in, I will find it and I will win. So the reason I went to Paris, I mean, we all know, we saw, didn't we? I absolutely really hate boxing. I can't stand violence. I've had too much and it just makes me cringe. It's just something, you know, I just don't like it at all. But I was watching Kellie-Jay's stream of the fight, and it was horrific. It was absolutely horrific. And I know that all around the world, millions of people were watching and feeling the same thing, this really disgusted feeling. It was just so wrong. Everything about it was completely wrong. And the reason I went was the call went up. Someone was saying, right, well, let's do something. And I know there were thousands of people who wanted to go but weren't able to. And I was fortunate that I was able to, and there was help for me to get there. And so I'm a little bit tired because I'm really bad at sleeping. So I stayed up the night before so I wouldn't miss my flight. So I'm just still running on fumes and caffeine and nicotine. And I got really badly sunburnt because I'm a middle-aged woman, and apparently, you know, I didn't realise that the sun is hot, and my pathetic, pale, white, Irish, English and Welsh jeans are not designed for this big ball of... Anyway, enough about me. But it was an amazing experience. It was a privilege to be there, because I know that I was representing thousands of people, men and women, who wanted to be there, who wanted to say, this is wrong. And we didn't have permission to be there. We set up by this big statue of Marianne, which is a really iconic figure in France. I think in all the little towns they have a statue of Marianne as a really, really important person to French people, and very close to their hearts. So in the middle of Place de la République, there's this huge statue and these huge lights. I did try and persuade someone to climb up a line, but there was no way I was going to be able to do it. Built for comfort and speed. But we were going to go there. We had banners. There was people came from all over. There were people came in from Edinburgh, from Dublin, from other parts of Ireland, from Belgium, the Netherlands, loads of places that I can't even remember, and they all, on the day, came together. I hadn't met any of these people. We had one of our Manchester lot happened to be there because she was there anyway. She was like, absolutely, she took a day out of her holiday to come and you know, hold a banner and take part. And so it was a kind of a guerrilla protest. We didn't have permission. The French police are notorious for being really hardline. And so we're there, right, we'll get there, we're quick. We had a huge amount of coverage. We had 4 different news agencies cover it. There was Channel 7 from Australia, there was journalists from a broadsheet in the UK, there was there was a lot of interest.
Was the BBC there?
No, of course the BBC weren't there. Funnily enough though, I was told that when I was talking to journalists and photographers, there are no female people reporting or photographing information for their organisation, the Olympics, because it's a blokey thing, isn't it? Sports and fast and muscles, and they don't want women getting involved in that kind of stuff. Who knows what would happen? We'd all be having cakes and comparing lipstick, because that's what women do apparently. So yeah, it was amazing, but we were very much like, right, we're probably going to get busted, big important thing, try not to get arrested, because apparently the police aren't great at, you know, they're known for being a little bit ruthless. And so we set up, we like military precision, and then started, and the sirens came, and we were like, oh shit, and then they just carried on and went past, and we're like, oh phew, that wasn't for us. And then we carried on, and then sirens again, and we're like, oh shit. So people are talking, saying amazing things, piquing people were talking in different languages. Obviously we had Portuguese people there, we had people speaking in French, obviously, because we were in France, but then a lot of people, a lot of tourists as well, a lot of Canadians, just happened by, Americans, and just coming up, learning about it and being piqued and just like, oh my God, yeah, absolutely. And a couple of times sirens came and they went, and they didn't bother with us. Maybe they didn't think we were important enough, or, you know, they just like, oh, it's just women, or might have just been a bit busy. But either way, we were there for about 2 hours. We thought it would be minutes, but we were there for 2 hours. We did what we did. We gave out loads of leaflets. We spoke to so many people. It was amazing. We had conversations. There's always one. So there was a man in a dress. You might see something of that on the, he's delightful, absolutely delightful. Little tiny dress. Yes, but there's always one, but we did our thing. We kept our dignity, we said what needed to be said, and got pictures of one of the banners with the Eiffel Tower backed up. And I'm really, really proud and glad that I went. And I've been to a few Let Women Speaks, never spoken, but there's something about it, you know. They all think we're just full of hate and we're all miserable. If you ever want to go to a Let Women Speak place and you're not sure where the women are, just listen for the laughter. Because you're like, oh, where are they? And you just hear this raucous laughter. It's the most consistently amazing, supportive place to be. Because, and I know that we get told, I'm currently reading a book by Victoria Barnes, Victoria Smith, I don't know, Hags, anyway. And it's about, you know, we're kind of, you know, as women, we're just, and some of us, especially when you get a bit older, the reason we know stuff because we've been through stuff, we've seen stuff. And most of us, like 80% of us, by the time we're in our 40s, have had children. That's a massive change to your perspective. I'm a generation up now, I've got grandchildren, that's my thing. I'm like, no fucking way. No way. You know, that's my thing that makes me think, you know, that we need to sort this out. It's just really unfair. So yeah, it was brilliant. It was amazing. I'm knackered, and I need to give up smoking again just as soon as I finish this current packet. Yeah, and I'm really proud to be there. It was an honour, and all the women I met afterwards, of course, we all went to a pub, and it's just amazing. This movement, it just unites people. Women mostly, and amazing men also, who care enough, you know, to make an effort to speak out as well, and to stand with us or behind us. And yeah, I'm just so I'm privileged to kind of feel a part of that. I will talk a little bit. If anyone wants to ask any questions about that, but it was brilliant, and I'm more than happy to chat to be anybody about anything. I did stand as a candidate for Let Women Speak, for Party of Women, in the locals back in May, and again, it was kind of one of those things that I know there were so many people who wanted to do it, but there's so many people still can't talk about it. I didn't realise how captured my ward is. It was a shock, but it'll be useful because I'll be doing it again, because it was a start, you know, it was a start. And there was a lot of knee-jerk reaction and reporting me to the police and trying to find my jobs and trying to get me kicked off a quite an important voluntary position. They failed. They came for me, they failed. And if any of you women, or people, men included, if anybody thinks, I can't say this because they're gonna get me sacked or they're gonna get me kicked out of this, they can't. They really can't. They will throw everything at you, but we've got the law on our side. We've got the Equality Act on our side. There's absolutely nothing illegal or hateful to say. No woman has a penis. No man has a vagina. There's no such thing as non-binary, and transitioning children is profound child abuse. So I think also I'll just quickly mention one of the problems that we've got, that I've got in my authority, touches on the leisure services. We have the organisation that covers all the leisure centres has always had women-only sessions, women-only swimming sessions, really heavily used. I've got a mosque just outside of my ward, so a lot of those women were using that, a lot of Muslim women. But then older women as well. I was on one of an action and a woman came up and she's disabled and older and she needed a hoist to go into the water. So it's a little bit undignified. She feels undignified in her swimming cosy being put in the hoist and into the water. She demands women only sessions. That's what she does. It's for her health, it keeps her moving. It's absolutely vital to her. Unfortunately, the organisation Life Leisure in Stockport stopped it. They just stopped women-only swimming because they don't want to have to decide what a woman is.
Cowards.
So now,
Cowards.
all of these women, for whatever reason, I loved the women-only swimming sessions. It's just, apart from anything, men swimming are just arseholes. You know, they just are. They just, And so there'd be the women who were like going up and talking to each other all the way up and having little conversations. And then there'd be, you know, doofuses like me with my little goggles and going under and trying to not drown. And but yeah, they just stopped it, point blank. Before the general election, I went to a hustings, which was big fun, and actually asked the MP, because he was obviously going to get re-elected, what he was going to do about it. He said that it was kind of like a far-right message, and how shameful of me to use these women as a tool for my far-right message. The thing is, one of my part-time jobs that the activists tried to get me sacked from, I have contact with and discuss and try and help women really who've come through really difficult times. Well, men as well, people, families. And I've had conversation with a woman who came to this country after being imprisoned, tortured and raped. And I'm a terrible person for thinking if she wants to go swimming, she should do it with just women. You know? So I will be standing again. I'm going to get more votes. And, you know, come at me. Come at me. There's nothing you can do. And it's just lovely to be amongst. We need this. I know it's a bit grim, and I know, you know, try not to be disheartened. You know, we'll fuck them up. Thank you very much.
Well, merci. Lady who has to get to Morrison's car park.
No, I've just realised I can't add up. But I'll come anyway.
Come anyway, come anyway.
I can't add 3 hours onto a funny number.
Oh, okay. What, like the digital? Moved on from analog now.
Hi everybody. I've come up from Derbyshire today, or across, I'm not sure which way that is actually. Geography is just as bad as my maths. And I came up to support because we'll be holding our own locals Let Women Speak in Derby on October the 20th. So I just want to pick up on the fell runner Jessica that you spoke about. We have a women's prison in Derbyshire called Foston Women's Prison, and Jessica is still in that women's prison as a man. Obviously, he's always a man. And when Dominic Raab brought in his new rules that if you're a violent man, you have to be expelled from the male estate, for some reason he never got moved, and we don't know why, and he's still in that female prison and having a right old time. I think he lords it up in there. So that's one point about Jessica. With the swim pools and changing rooms, you might want to just have a little look on Twitter for the Tainbridge Free. 3 women went and asked supplementary questions of their counsellors. And you can see the disgraceful response from the chair and how she shut them down, wouldn't let them talk when they were asking very reasonable questions about men who say they're women in changing rooms with young girls. These are men in changing rooms with young girls. And I think we have to, again, as Kelly says, get away from this idea that you have to be vulnerable, or you have to be a victim of sexual assault or domestic violence, or you have to be religious, because we don't. We just don't want men in our spaces. And it doesn't matter if they're nice trans men or women, men who say they're women. They could be lovely, but we just don't want them there. And we're not saying they're predators, but I have to say this: any man who has the audacity to go in a changing room with women and girls is a pervert. Because why else would you do it? There's absolutely no reason to do it, particularly if there's an option to have the mixed sex changing rooms like most places do now, or the mixed villages. So that's that point. And then on the language and gaslighting, I've had this issue with my school, which is part of Queen Elizabeth Multi-Academy Trust in Derbyshire. And I heard a little rumour they were installing mixed sex toilets. And 14 email exchanges later between me and the headmaster, and I've still not got a straight answer out of him, and I'm in the complaints process now. And I gave him common language that we could use together, because it's unlawful to have mixed sex toilets over the age of 8 in schools. And I outlined all this in a document, lots of safeguarding issues, and I just wanted a straight answer from him. Are you installing mixed sex toilets in the new build area? Because they're also renovating all the other toilets as well. And I've had such a frustrating time trying to get answers. He's talked about, what did he call it? Separate but communal, which was interesting. So I think by that he meant, they're all going to be like floor to ceiling cubicles. And by separate, not single sex, he means girls on one side, boys on the other, with communal hand washing. So I said that's mixed sex. And then finally, when I got into the complaints process, he's come back and said the toilets that are being renovated, he's used single sex, single sex, single sex. And then for the new toilets, he said they will be designated male and female. So he still won't use the language, which means they're going to be mixed sex. So, you know, this has been going on probably since May with them now, and we've got, or June probably actually, because it coincided with the election, which was really bad timing for me because I had loads to do. But I got in touch with a local journalist, and actually she did actually ask, Richard Sunak came to the area during the election, and she did actually ask him about the toilets, and so that was in the local paper as well. So, but the comments on the local paper are just hilarious. What's wrong with this woman? She's got a bee in a bonnet. And it can't be unlawful if they're installing them in schools. I'm afraid it is unlawful. And they're trying to say that because it's a cubicle, that is a single-sex facility, and it is not. The facility is the toilet area. So that means the toilets, the hand washing, the lot. So do check with your children when they come home, because I only heard this by accident from my child, that they aren't installing these. They've probably installed them over the summer and you don't even know. So, and if they have, please do challenge it. It's something you can do. And it's, you know, I think there's so many things that you can go at in this fight. And sometimes it's overwhelming and frustrating and you feel helpless. But if you can just pick something that you are interested in or matters to you, and you can fight for that, then that helps you keep your mind focused, and you know what you can do and put your mind to it. And use the language, don't let them gaslight you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Nervous but confident. Communal but separate. Penis but vagina. It's mad, isn't it? They are like politicians. I was just sat over there listening to you and thought, what is it? What is it about unisex toilets? What the hell is going on?
Oh, I forgot to mention the CCTV as well.
CCTV in the unisex toilet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, good. Probably being in the cubicles. So there's going to be CCTV in those toilets. And like I said, they're often really open. It's very, very weird. It's very uncomfortable. And if we bear in mind for our friends over in the United States of America, they don't even have floor-to-ceiling doors. And they have big gaps at either side. So when they have unisex toilets, people literally, you can actually see the colour of people's underwear as you walk by, even if you're not really, like if you're just like that, you just inadvertently, you can see far more than you'd ever want to. And if you're not my height, but if you're if you're 6 foot, you can see over. It's absolutely bonkers. Anyway, would anyone else like to speak? Come on.
Oh.
Good afternoon, Wrexham.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to get absolutely tortured for this, I can imagine, and the glasses aren't going to make any difference, are they really? Let's be honest. So I came here today to see what was going on because I heard that there was a protest. There is an EDL protest due to start also at 7 p.m. in Town Hill, so anyone stay clear of that, just to be aware. Yeah, so I came down to see what was going on. No booze, but I started off as the founder of North Wales Pride. The reason, yeah, the reason being, I said no booze, no laughing either. Thank you. Just let me finish my story first before you judge. Right. So basically, I wasn't clued up to anything. I'm not clued up to a lot of stuff. I've got autism and ADHD, so I get very mixed up. As you can see, I've got a vagina and boobs, and I do identify as a woman, as does my partner Yasmin. We've had a lot of. Am I allowed to swear? No, crap.
No, you can a bit.
We've had a lot of crap. I've had a lot of crap in the past, and the reason being that I started North Wales Pride, unbeknown to me, was because I'd been attacked by a male outside my home for the fact that, first of all, the colour of my skin. It was during the Palestinian War. Second of all, because I'm gay, and it was quite severe to the point where the man got sent to prison for it. I lost my head a lot over it and ended up in a psychiatric unit for a week. Terrified of everyone, terrified of men, always have been. No offence to, you know, men in general, but I was. It put the fear of God in me. After that, I regained my strength a little bit. I forgot to mention I owned a salon in Wrexham, so during the pandemic, obviously we weren't allowed to do anything. As I mentioned before, I've got ADHD and autism. If I'm not doing something, I'm doing something that's not good. So the reason why I started Pride was because I wanted a safe space, but my words obviously don't meet what I mean. So I wanted a safe space for people, young women, children, to be able to go and feel comfortable where we can voice how we feel. That then turned into the biggest political party that I didn't realise I was ever going to be involved in. I ended up getting into another political party where I was running for council. So, yeah, so I've come here today. I've had words with Becca. See, I know these things, and realised that, yeah, we do need to keep our rights. I mean, I did realise that anyway, but with everything that's going on, I don't watch the news anymore. I don't get involved in anything anymore because I get pushed out of everything. I've never been able to have a voice. The whole reason I started Pride, and I hope everyone's watching, I know they're watching because they know I'm here. The whole reason why I started Pride was because I wanted to feel safe. That's then turned into stuff I didn't even realise. I identified as what? To the point where I started joking and identified as a poppy ping, which is Welsh for microwave. So,
I do agree with what is going on here. Oh my God, please don't kill me. And I am happy that I've come down today. There is, for the record, no violence, which is what you normally see during a protest. There is no one kicking off. We haven't even got police here, because there is nothing bad about this. I think what you're doing is amazing, I must say. And I really need to rethink what I do in the future with my brain that is scrambled enough as it is. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say really, and well done everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. And to all of our friends and all those lovely people she started at Pride, she's a TERF now. I don't want to get in trouble. She might not say that she is one, but this is what happens to women.
Sorry, not sorry.
Pardon?
Sorry, not sorry.
She said sorry, not sorry. I'm speaking on her behalf.
Carly Lowndes, former Pride director.
Carly Lowndes, her name is, if you need to look her up. Former Pride director, founder. The woman that wanted to do something to make everyone feel happy and safe, who then ended up not feeling particularly happy or safe. She was bullied and pushed out because she was trusting, not stupid. Because she was trusting. I'm just going to say, look, there's many Daves that we come across in our lives, in bad wigs and bad dresses, and the word trust is something you never ever can do amongst them, because they are compelled to serve themselves and their sexual fetish, and it's very unfortunate. But as all people who go to Pride thinking it genuinely is a celebration of LGB and maybe T, it now is a centering of heterosexual men in dresses. So that's what Pride is. That's why so many straight women go, because they're supporting the straight men. And that's what you see. Women my age go to Pride. Why do they go? Because they love a bit of glitter. They love a bit of glitter. Okay, would anybody else like to speak? You can speak as you. Did you want to? Yeah, you can speak as you, and then Charlotte can finish, and then I'll finish.
No, you go.
Hi, I couldn't resist. I'm here in Wales, and this is where my grandmother was from, and she spent a lot of her time bringing me up. She was born in Gresford, and she was the youngest daughter of the head gardener in a great stately pile, you know, with loads of land and the big posh house and everything. And they were all her family, thank you, were indentured servants. They had no choice. They could not leave and work elsewhere. They had little choice in life. Their horizons were very small. And the Lord of the Manor type came up to her father, the head gardener, and he said, apparently I need another scullery maid. You've got a daughter, haven't you? Still not working for me? And he said, yes, I have Elizabeth. She's 12. So this is in the late 1800s, or it might have been the turn of the century by then. And so she was taken out of school at 12 and had to work at the big house as a scullery maid. She married as soon as she could. She did reasonably well for herself. She married into a family of property developers and builders, and they all moved to Birkenhead, hence the accent. And she assimilated, they all did, and they all spoke English, and all the Welsh she had left were hymns. She could sing hymns in Welsh, but she couldn't speak in Welsh anymore. But then, in the 1920s, she found out she got the vote. And she was able to vote, and she apparently, because I saw it with my own eyes when I was a little girl, put her best hat on and her best frock coat on, and she would walk to the polling booth and proudly put her X. And she was really proud of this. She was really chuffed, you know, in her quiet way. Now, she married a man who was a reprobate, terrible rascal, but to save him losing his home that had been built by the family to debtors, he put it in her name. So Elizabeth Williams was a property owner and she didn't know. But then in the 60s, my father helped her get a divorce, and they found out that she was a woman of property. Well, this changed my grandmother enormously. She walked a lot taller. She was someone in the community. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because of statutes, because of laws, because of state decisions. My grandmother amounted to something. She was just beyond her wildest dreams. She started life as a slave, essentially, an indentured servant, and she became a property owner, an independent woman, if you will. And I've lived, you know, I'm an old woman, so I've lived through changes like the Equal Pay Act and the Sex Discrimination Act. Now we have the Equality Act. And so we need to appreciate that all these rights that we enjoy and we proudly uphold, they're very temporary things. They're really fragile. And unless we speak out for rights and we defend our rights and we ask for more rights, we could lose them. And I think that's where a lot of young women are in this situation today. And so we have some of the good times, actually, and we need to make sure that young people have good times in the future. So I just wanted to say her name, Elizabeth Williams of Grassroots. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we were going to have a biology lesson. Are we having a biology lesson? No. No. Yeah, go on. That's another one of our Party of Women candidates. The pioneering candidate.
I didn't prep anything because I was just going to fill a gap. But then all the talk of the NHS and doctors, I just wanted to maybe give you a little bit of a science lesson. I assume that most people here at some point, you know, us turfy kind of people, have been asked if you're a biologist when you say certain things. Well, I am. So, I'm also part of Seen in Healthcare, so I'll give that a little plug. And we're currently compiling a list, which should be out soon, of all the things that are sex dependent in healthcare. So, just a brief, it depends a lot between women and men. When you have operations, for example, your bladder's in a different place. If you go for a local anaesthetic or a general anaesthetic even, the anaesthetist needs to know that you're female because the drugs he'll give you will be slightly different. The oxygen that he'll ventilate you with, the tidal volume of that will be slightly different. The airway they use to keep your airway open while they're doing these things will be different to that of a man. If you're unfortunate enough to be catheterised, that catheter is going to be a different size. So there is so many differences, and doctors do know because they have to know. It's just hopefully pushing them to step up and say these things, which is what Seen in Healthcare are trying to do. The BMI, so the BMI, just to point out, and I can say this quite proudly, they are a union. They have no medical clout. So don't worry, is what I should probably say. So there's a lot of stuff going on in healthcare, but I just wanted to give you those few things that are sex dependent when you're having any operation or any procedure. And I think I'm done. Kellie-Jay. Kellie-Jay.
Thank you, Charlotte. So I was just admiring the work that's been put in. In particular, JD, who has really helped women across most of the country, to be fair. Everywhere north of Birmingham has got a bit of JD inspiration in it. And Charlotte and Becca and all of the local women who helped put this on today. I looked across at Charlotte at one point, and Charlotte's very shy. You won't see her standing here, and we're going to change that. But Charlotte's very shy, but I just looked at her at one point when one of the women were talking. I was like, yeah, you did this. This is the power of let women speak. And I talk about it all the time, and I'm sure there have been at least one or two moments today where you've been moved to tears. or just been so incredibly proud of the courage of the woman speaking in front of you. And I'm really privileged that I've seen so many of these moments. And you just watch someone who's a bit unsure about speaking and then they just blossom. Sometimes it happens with absolute righteous rage. Sometimes not. Sometimes just incredibly moving. Sometimes it just makes you think that you want to speak next. But it's a real privilege for Let Women Speak to be able to create these places where women do feel that they can speak. And I can't tell you the difference it makes, and I hear about this all the time from people that speak, that they've been quiet, they've been silent, they've held these words behind their teeth for so long, and being able to say them just feels cathartic and liberating, and in that moment they just don't feel alone. And so I just want to say that now that we're doing these locals, and where you come to speak often, and you know, it's two people have said today, it's because we came to Wrexham that they felt that they could come, because maybe travelling was too much, or they would always find a good enough reason not to go. And so these local events, they are going to be the foundation of a really resilient, strong and very, very necessary women's movement, where the fundamental thing is that we do get to speak, and we get to listen, and we don't, like, no TRAs turned up today. I can't say that's always going to be the case, but you know, if it's a bit sunny, they often get too hot. If it's raining, they get too wet. If it's cold, they don't often have a nice winter coat. Except if you're in Newcastle, where I don't think anyone wears them, so they still might come out. Anyway, if you can have courage and come and speak up, even when in some people's cases, you know, your entire network is going to go absolutely lunatic about it, then I promise we will win. If you can come and speak, even though you tremble with fear and it upsets you and it makes you go to the place that you don't want to be, but you do it anyway, then I promise we will win. And do you know why else we're going to win? Because I never lose.
Well done, everyone.